It is a fresh morning, and it definitely means that you come in with a new energy as well as new resolutions that you get up to look for that new week in your face, and you also get a chance to relook at some of the opportunities as well as some of the actions that you need to take. And welcome to it. This is the Camnet TV Breakfast Show on a Monday, 5th of February 2024. Thank you for joining us this morning. I'm your host Nelson Zunu, and I'm not alone in the studio. I'm by my colleague Vincent Piri, where we shall get to run you through in terms of what is currently happening on the ground, as also give you a perspective in terms of what you get to look out for. And we also give you an opportunity at a particular juncture to call in and give us all those perspectives in terms of the issues of concern that may arise. And one of those factors that I know for now is the fact that Namibia is mourning, and they lost their president on Sunday morning in Hage Geingob, who died at the age of 82 as a result of cancer. And we do send our condolences to that nation. It's so disheartening that at such a time the country is going such through affairs.
Yeah, I think every life that is lost is regrettable, but losing a leader, I think, is so unfortunate. Yeah, we send our prayers to them and also our condolences.
We do send our condolences to them as well. But in case you have a brighter side of it, where you join, you're celebrating your birthday, just like I do know someone out there is celebrating their birthday. It's happy birthday to you. But without further much ado, let's go into our first segment this morning, which is the Health Corner, and get to look at what the doctors do have for us this morning.
Hi, good morning and welcome to the Health Corner here on the Breakfast Show. I am Dr. Nakubiana Mfaya. This week we have another very interesting topic, and we continue to look at conditions that affect women for the whole month of March. And so this week we are talking about another condition that affects a lot of women, and it's a condition that is seen in many people in the hospitals. So many people come with this condition. So we are going to talk about fibroids. So we want to understand what are fibroids and how do they come about. We also want to know what are some of the signs and symptoms to look out for you to be able to say that you have fibroids. Then we will look at how it's diagnosed and treated. What are the treatment options for fibroids? Then we'll also look at the complications and how you can prevent yourself from having fibroids. So today we'll look at what are fibroids. We want to understand what they are, and fibroids are benign tumors. So when we say benign tumors, we are talking about it's a tumor, of course, but it's not cancer. So these are tumors that occur in the uterus or the womb, and there are different types. So they can be found inside the uterus or around the uterus, outside the uterus, around the uterus, or in the walls of the uterus. So these are like tumors that grow in the uterus itself, or around the uterus, or in the muscles of the uterus. And they affect so many women, and they usually, mostly it's women who are above 40 to 50 years. But any woman who is who has already started having her menses and is able to produce a lot of estrogen, they can easily get these fibroids. So from even as low as 20 years of age, someone can start having fibroids even when they are still very young. So these fibroids usually have estrogen receptors. Estrogen is a hormone that women usually have, especially when they start their menstrual cycles, they would produce a hormone called estrogen. And so when this estrogen is not regulated very well in the uterus, it may end up causing fibroids. And so these fibroids have estrogen receptors, and so when the estrogen binds to those receptors, they end up growing, and so they end up growing bigger in size. And this is why for people who have fibroids and they become pregnant, they would experience that their fibroids start becoming bigger, because when you're pregnant, you have more estrogen, and so your fibroids become bigger in size. So this is how fibroids usually come about, and this is what we call fibroids. And so we'll understand what are some of the risk factors and other causes of fibroids tomorrow. So make sure you watch tomorrow again to be able to know exactly how these fibroids come about and what are some of the other causes and also some of the other risk factors that you might not be aware of. So I do hope you have learned something. Today we're talking about what fibroids are, and we have said that fibroids are benign tumors, benign because they are not cancerous, but they are tumors that grow in the uterus or around the uterus, which is the womb, and these have got estrogen receptors which help them to grow even bigger when they are activated. So make sure that you watch The Breakfast Show, and if you would want to watch other episodes that we have done on the Health Corner, you can also watch them on my YouTube channel, which is Dr. Nakubiana Mfaya Siameka on YouTube. I do hope you have learned something, and I'll see you again next time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Nakubiana Mufaya, right there, giving in the perspective or a topic on what fibroids are. And I'm hopeful that you've learned one or two things. But let's cruise into our next segment, which is the money market. And we get to look at how the kwacha is faring against the major convertibles in the country. First thing first, the United States dollar is buying at 26 kwacha 0.95 ingwe and selling at 27 kwacha 0.48 ingwe. The euro is buying at 29 kwacha 0.16 ingwe, selling at 29 kwacha 0.74 ingwe, and we've seen also the South African rand buying at 1 kwacha 0.44 ingwe and selling at 1 kwacha 0.46 ingwe. The Great British Pound is buying at 34 kwacha rather 0.23 ngwe and selling at 34 kwacha 0.90 ngwe. The updates are as exactly 7:31, and so interestingly so is the continued increase in the dollar, just like we continue to indicate. I think we've seen it at 27 or 18 ngwe as of last week. I think we're closing somewhere 30, somewhere 40 at 27 kwacha 40 ngwe, but hey, it is what it is.
Yeah, and for some banks it was it's important to mention that for some banks it was as high as 27 kwacha 50 ngwe. So probably today we are much higher than it is showing there.
Well. We're going to delve into all those conversations also and get to understand what are some of the implications of such happenings in terms of the workers themselves. For we know that it's the same workers that have got families that they look up to, and just going to also getting all those insights, we shall have an interview with the Federation of Free Trade Union of Zambia, FFTUZ. Well, actually going to also give us their perspective in terms of what is currently happening. But well, let's get into our zooming in headline segment, where we get to look at some of the stories that are making headlines.
But why are you looking at me like that?
Well, I'm looking at you like that because you happen to be a Man City fan who's ever excited that we were battered by these boys.
You are finished machines, sir. I think you should accept that.
No, we're big machines.
And your coach is going. So I'm wondering what the case will be, because that coach understands your team.
Arsenal beat up a 10-man Liverpool, but they failed to be on top of the table. Can we please look at how we're making headlines?
That's where it starts from, sir. Okay, so we start from Shikankata, where Shikankata Member of Parliament Jacqueline Sabao has directed residents of the constituency to report all perpetrators of early marriages to the police. Speaking when she commissioned 10 constituency development fund projects under the 2022 CDF projects worth over 5 million kwacha, Ms. Sabao emphasized the need to end early marriages and by ensuring that children go to school, as symbolized by a number of educational projects which have been commissioned in that constituency. Another story here is a big one, where President Hichilema directed that all health volunteers at cholera centers across the country will be employed. Speaking when he toured the cholera treatment center Sunday, President Hichilema said that the employing of all the health volunteers in all categories is key in bridging the health practitioners and patient ratio and deliver quality health services. Let's get to see those stories.
While others question the effectiveness of the Constituency Development Fund CDF, Shikankata constituency in Southern Province is home where dancers have engulfed the district after remarkable chapters of success through the implementation of CDF, the commissioning of 10 new projects which include a 1x3 classroom block at Cabo School, an agricultural shed in Nansenga Ward, and a maternity annex in Siamikobo area of Mosaya Ward is a testament to averting community challenges through the program. As development takes a toll, Shikankata Area Member of Parliament Jacqueline Sabao sounds a warning of securing the future of children, especially girls, by detesting early childhood marriage.
That those people who are marrying off young children, please report them to the police starting from today. If we have people who have married off their children below 16 years, is it 16 or 17 or 16? 16 years. I'm by said report to police. I want these children to finish school so that they have their future, which is bright, unlikely disturbing them because of marriage. While commissioning the projects, the lawmaker reiterates the government's call to develop the country without segregation. Symbolizes our commitment to creating a community where every individual has the opportunity to thrive.
Jitonde hagamba kuti mbuli mbotukala antomwe tuliwali akulangala kwamba kuti bonse bachikwenye kuba abumi buli kabota.
As your area member of parliament, I believe in transparency and accountability, and thus I'm proud to share with you the details of each project.
Meanwhile, Shikankata District Administrative Officer Choi Siabamba cautioned residents to safeguard the infrastructure costing over 5 million kwacha.
I now want to ask all of us beneficiaries to this project to make proper use of these projects, to take care of them. We will not expect government to come back to continue repairing these projects for us.
And Council Chairperson and CDF Committee Chairman, while expressing their happiness, called for the need to follow the CDF guidelines.
What happened in the first 2.5 years was a learning phase. Let us therefore use this opportunity to choose the best that will do the best for the communities.
Prosperity of our district, and for those that shall come after us, the entire prosperity that is coming into the future. Let us own everything that is in our constitution.
Member of Parliament for Shikankata constituency, I'm here to commission this very important project.
Nelson Zulu for Camnet News, Shikankata, Southern Province.
All the volunteers, without exception, different categories. I know in the ministry we recruit health workers every year. We have a program of recruiting health workers since we took public office 2 years, 5 months ago, in an organized way. I know Zambia got used to disorder, but we must be organized. And I mean not people working in this center. I mean those working volunteers in the centers, Corella centers across the country.
All right, those are some of the stories that we are zooming in this morning. One coming from Chikankata. Nelson Zulu covered that. And I think it's commendable that we should be seeing the positive side of the CDF fund.
Yeah, definitely. I did cover that, and I'm able to attest to the fact that it comes as a relief, especially to the people of Chikankata, because they're experiencing a lot of challenges that were there, and you can see, like, from the 10 projects that were commissioned. You learn that at Uche Primary School, which is now going to be turned into a secondary school, which houses about 1,000 of pupils and has 12 teachers, only 4 teachers were accommodated at that time. And there's a semi-detached household now that was commissioned that will see two teachers being at the school and having a shelter. And then interestingly, so also there's a bridge that was commissioned, and this bridge is a crossing point between 2 points for one, especially those in Chikankata, to do their business. And it is something that was also commendable, seeing the brighter aspect of it, where we've had concerns, especially within urban areas, where people have been asking whether CDF is working or not. But it seems in rural parts it is working.
It's doing fine, yes. I think we are the only ones in Lusaka who are lacking.
Well, hopefully, in the interest of time, we won't lack. We shall have interesting factors altogether. But let's get to move on, and also do so. As we do so, we get to usher in our guest this morning, and also have a perspective from them. So to help us do that, we shall look at some of the stories that also are in relation to what we shall be discussing this morning. So one of the stories is coming from an economist, Kelvin Chisanga, who has questioned the Bank of Zambia's decision to adjust upward the statutory reserve ratio from the current 17.0% to 26.0% effective today, 2024. Mr. Chisanga notes that the central bank is in panic mode and that increasing the reserve ratio will not address the continued depreciation of the kwacha. And another story that we also get to look at is that of opposition economic freedom fighters, EFF, who has advised government to declare fuel as a public good and introduce subsidies on the commodity. EFF leader Kasonde Mwenda says government cannot be preaching about production when it is not facilitating means to do so. Let's get to look at those stories, and on the other side, you'll be joining us for the main interview this morning.
On Friday, 2nd February 2024, the Bank of Zambia adjusted upwards the statutory reserve ratio on both local and foreign currency deposits, including government deposits and vassal accounts deposit, by 9% from the current 17% to 26%, effective Monday, 5th February 2024. Increasing the statutory reserve ratio means that the central bank will reduce money supply by pulling 9% of the kwacha out of the system and placing upward pressure on the domestic currency, which could in turn help ease imported inflation. But economist Kelvin Chisanga has questioned the bank's decision, noting that the central bank is in panic mode and that increasing the reserve ratio will not address the economic challenges as well as the continued depreciation of the kwacha.
In as much as we are trying to fight the accelerating erosion that is taking place in inflation as well as the foreign exchange fundamentals, for me, I feel this is quite rational. Obviously, when you look at the effect that is coming so strong on the economic fundamentals, that we are raising the cost of doing business, and much more even when you look at the holding capacity of most account holders at the bank, they will be able to, have some shake-up in terms of the book balance and all sort of things in that sense. And this also is actually a strong signal testifying that we are looking forward to have elevated costs on doing business in the sense of maybe say interest rates.
What is important to note is that this is the fourth time that the central bank has increased the statutory reserve ratio in 13 months, but no positive results can be pointed at, especially when it comes to addressing the continued depreciation of the kwacha. As at close of business Friday, 2nd February 2024, $1 was selling at 27 kwacha 51 ngwe. Will this fresh adjustment of the statutory reserve ratio make a difference this time around? Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka. On Wednesday, 31st January 2024, the Energy Regulation Board, ERB, adjusted petroleum pump prices upwards. Opposition Economic Freedom Fighters, AFF, has proposed that government declares fuel as a public good and introduce subsidies on the commodity. Speaking at a media briefing in Lusaka Saturday morning, EFF leader Kasonde Mwenda says government cannot be preaching about production when it is not facilitating means to do so.
Fuel prices. We saw on the 31st of January the prices of petrol being elevated to 34 kwacha, 16 ngwe. It's an atrocity. It's a death sentence to the people. That is a death sentence to the people. I also sat in an economics class. You can never reach an equilibrium, economic equilibrium in poverty. There is no, your science, that is backward kind of thinking. No, they can't finish so that they reflect the truth. When the price of fuel goes up, you cripple the means of production.
Meanwhile, Party National Youth Chairperson Stanley Malama has expressed disappointment that government has concentrated on employing civil servants and has done nothing to create jobs in the private sector.
Found debt swap which was being pushed by the PF government. When campaigning, he promised the civil servants that we are going to continue with debt swap. But up to now, there is nothing that is happening. The civil servants who are listening throughout the country are aware of the effects which came with being promised a debt swap and not being given. They are aware of the suffering of the civil servants because it was a promise that they are going to be given a debt swap. Apart from that, yes, they are employing a lot of teachers, but there is no respect for the terms and conditions of service for the teachers, for the nurses, for the police officers, and all other civil servants.
Vincent Piri for Camnet TV News, Lusaka.
Thank you so much for still staying tuned to the Camnet TV Breakfast Show on a Monday. Just like I did indicate that we'll be having an interview with the Federation of Free Trade Unions of Zambia Secretary General in Mr. Nelson Mwale, just to help us understand a lot of issues that are happening in terms of the country's labor movement. And we get to also kickstart the program or the interview with the first thing, which is actually one of the biggest, if you ask me. President Hakainde Hichilema, as of yesterday, did declare that all those that are volunteering at different cholera health centers be recruited in various ministries. And we get to first get a reaction from the FTUZ.
Oh, thank you so very much. Good morning, Nelson.
Morning, thank you.
And good morning, viewers up there. Indeed, ladies and gentlemen, wherever you are hearing us from and wherever you are watching us from, we want to thank His Excellency, the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, for the bold decision that he took in ensuring that all those that offered voluntary services in the cholera centers countrywide have been employed and will soon be deployed countrywide. I think it's a very, very good gesture. Those are some of the bold decisions that we expect from a good government, because at the end of the day, we have a number of comrades that could have possibly run away when they saw that epicenters were getting heated, but we have those that persisted and said they had to save human life. They had to risk their lives to save, our citizenry. We have got, nurses, we have got clinical officers, we've got other, other staff like physiotherapy staff, and so on and so forth. So we want to thank His Excellency, and we commend all those that have, voluntarily, being in those epicenters, that indeed that is what we need. It is not always about money, but voluntary services can yield fruits, as we can see.
Even as we head closer into the big elephant in the room when we talk of issues relating to the labor force in the country, let's get to also understand some of your role as FFTUZ in terms of the country's labor force.
Thank you so very much. Like I think I've mentioned before on this same forum, that the Federation of Free Trade Union of Zambia is actually a consortium of unions from all sectors, in the mining, in the security sector, in the education sector, in the health sector, in the water sector, to mention but a few. We have unions in all these areas that fall under the umbrella of the Federation of Free Trade Unions of Zambia, and our responsibility is to ensure that the rights of the workers are not infringed or trampled upon. General.
On top of my head, just like you are indicating some of your role as FFTUZ, is the fact that we've seen reports that have indicated that some workers are being abused. For instance, something that I would relate to is reports that do indicate that some district education officers in Southern Province are under threat or are being victimized by some chiefs simply because some teachers within that locality were not recruited.
Thank you so much, comrade. Correctly said, Nelson. Indeed, we are receiving very, very saddening reports that there has been no proper reconciliation of services between the Ministry of General Education and the Teaching Service Commission in as far as teacher recruitment is concerned. We have reports that a number of our district education board secretaries and human resource officers have been victimized by some chiefs in unconfirmed reports. And we are calling upon the chiefs, our traditional leaders, that those are our parents, and we expect them to embrace whoever is working in their jurisdiction. And whatever has gone wrong, I think there's always a correct channel to be followed. We are told from unconfirmed reports that some offices have actually been locked up. Comrades have actually run away from those offices for fear of victimization, that the locals in that area were not considered during teacher recruitment. And I want to make a mention that yes, we are a proponent of locals being employed in a particular area, but in the interest of one Zambia, one nation, our chiefs, our traditional leaders must be able to accommodate whoever comes from all the way from Mugatete to go and work in Zimba must be accommodated, because at the end of the day, we are talking about one Zambia, one nation.
One might argue to say these cases have been reported time and again, but there's no substantive or conclusive action that has been seen in terms of to be taken and for the victims to actually benefit from those that have indicated report before them. What do we do to ensure that this narrative changes?
Yeah, Nelson, we call upon the Teaching Service Commission, working with the Ministry of General Education, to move in the same direction and to reconcile whatever activity they do during teacher recruitment. I think we have seen open situations where the authorities at the Ministry of General Education have openly differed with the Teaching Service Commission. I think the trajectory is not positive. The trajectory is not positive. Can we ensure that the employer and the ministry that carries out delegatedly, functions must move in the same direction.
Okay, we have also had reports away from the recruitment issues. We have had reports of workers being victimized, especially in workplaces which are owned by foreign nationals. What interest did you take as FFTUZ?
Yeah, as a Federation of Free Trade Union of Zambia, actually, we are very much interested. We are a serious stakeholder in those issues because, like I told you, we represent workers from all sectors, across the board. So we are saying we have had such reports, especially from Chinese employers. So sorry to mention our good friends, the Chinese, but I must make a mention that much of reports of victimization emanate from Chinese employers. We have situations where, you know, sometimes even unionism has not been allowed in Chinese firms, where, you know, our people cannot, you know, air their grievances, even to do with, you know, safety boots, to do with safety outfit. Our people, you find them in a very, very awkward position without proper protective, you know, outfit, and yet they cannot air their grievances anywhere because this Chinese employer will simply chuck them out. And I'm calling upon our comrades, the Chinese employers, that the labor laws that prevail in Zambia must, you know, be followed and followed to the latter. You see, we cannot be seen to be, you know, to be seeing, you know, employers that are abrogating the provisions of the Industrial and Labor Relations Act, Chapter 269, and indeed the Employment Code Act. I think it's unacceptable. So we are calling upon Chinese employers, especially both in the mining and these other sectors, that they abide by the provisions of the Zambian law.
Riding from on that, do you think we are doing enough in terms of implementing our labor laws? Because I think there's been a concern that mostly our laws are protecting the foreigners rather than their own.
It's a very regrettable situation, comrade. The laws must protect Zambians first. In as far as we accommodate the foreign citizens that come and invest in our country, but we must protect, you know, the Zambian citizens, and that is the reason why the Federation of Free Trade Union of Zambia has embarked on a worker education, you know, program to do with all our union leaders in all affiliates, because some of these workers who are actually victimized are actually unionized. Where is the union? What is the role of the union? Are we playing it cowardice as unions? As unions, we must not be cowards. Can we be on the lookout? That's why we've been calling upon the Office of the Labor Commissioner, that where, you know, they are doing inspections once in a while, can they bring the labor movement on board so that we are able to see how our workers are performing and how our workers are treated, because a number of these issues, you know, have actually been reported to our offices, but I think we have not moved in together with the Minister of Labor. So we are calling upon the Minister of Labor to open their doors to the labor movement. We help them in the inspection of the activities of these investors, especially foreign nationals like the Chinese.
But also one might argue to say, aside from government just chipping in, we've got a number of unions that do represent the interest of these workers. Is it that they're ineffective and there's no need to have these unions in place?
Yeah, that's why, possibly as mother bodies, we have gone to sleep in as far as workers' education is concerned, because I would make a mention to you that when we were carrying out worker education for all our affiliates last week, much of what was emphasized on was the law on the rights of the workers, because both the Convention ILO 98 and 87 stipulates very, very clearly about the rights of the workers, and that's why we are saying, as mother bodies, we must ensure that we go flat out and provide worker education to our union leaders in the affiliate unions, because a number of them actually, you know, possibly have allowed these investors to abuse our workers, especially the Chinese nationals. You forgive me by emphasizing on the Chinese nationals, because much of the ill treatment that we have seen is attributed to the same Chinese investors that we have.
Well, in case you're joining in, this is the Camnet TV Breakfast Show on a Monday, and we're joined by Mr. Nelson Mwale from the Federation of Free Trade Union of Zambia, that is FFTUZ. Well, you might also be asking questions in terms of why is he my namesake? Well, it's just a coincidence.
It's a coincidence.
Yes.
You are my young brother.
Yes. Let's get also into the thick and thin of it. One thing that has been topical is the issue relating to the fuel pump price. A lot of stakeholders in various sectors have complained about this increase that has been seen for some time now.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
What is the implication when we come to the workers in general? Because we've also had issues where certain companies have not adhered to the minimum wage that has been put up.
Yeah. Thank you so very much, Nelson. Indeed, the issue of fuel increment is a serious blow to the workers, because what you must understand is that economically, fuel increase has a ripple effect. Okay, meaning all commodities will have their prices inflated. All activities in the transport sector to move, citizens from point A to B, to move goods and services from point A to B will become very, very expensive. And if you go into these change stores, as I'm speaking now, and also you realize that prices have, to some extent, doubled or even tripled. Why? Because fuel is actually an engine of any economic development. It turns the wheels of the economy, fuel. And so whatever has to do with much fuel increment, the way we have 34 kwacha per liter now, I think it leaves a lot to be desired, to an extent where even if we negotiate with the employer right now, and whatever increment we can get, both in the public and the private sector, is swallowed up because of the same, increment of fuel. Because here we are, you agree on a 10% salary increment as of today. After 2 days, you find an increment of fuel.
It's like a situation
Yeah.
that I would tell you between a rock and a hard place.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But what solutions are we laying on the table as a
Regrettably, again, Nelson, we see an increase in the monitoring policy rate in terms of lending by the Bank of Zambia. I think the Bank of Zambia, maybe let them possibly look at other alternatives of controlling the flow of the kwacha, like the reserve ratio, the sector reserve ratio, where
which was also increased to 26.
Yeah, which was also increased. So we are in a very awkward position where all the lending institutions may revise their rates to such an extent that our workers that have obtained loans from these commercial banks will have to pay a very, very heavy price. So the increase in the monetary policy rate by the Bank of Zambia has also hit us hard to an extent where at the end of the day, it is our workers that are being, hit hard. So all these areas are areas that our learned economists out there must be able to come on board and provide proper guidance to both the Minister of Finance and the Bank of Zambia. Otherwise, at the end of the day, it is actually our own workers that will pay a price, because they are the ones that are the major taxpayers to this country.
Just like at the end of January, we saw the country's inflation rate rise from 13.1% to 13.2% for the 7th time, and we've also seen actions being taken in terms of the monetary policy rate, as well as the reserve ratio being increased from 17.0% to 26.0%. Now, with all this in place, what do we really need to do to ensure that labor laws in the country are respected to the latter, in the sense that the employer and the employee, they also get to benefit? Because we've had issues where some workers are not paid and their conditions of service are actually not pleasing at all.
Nelson, the proprietors of private schools in the education sector are a major culprit. Yesterday I had about 2 or 3 calls from some teachers who are saying, sir, up to now, because of the holiday that we are in, attributed to cholera, we have not been paid. So I don't know whether we have the proprietors of the schools to blame, or we have the way they handle their policy direction, because when there's such an emergency like cholera, COVID, the proprietors of private schools must have a reserve, resource somewhere where, in case of such an unforeseen situation, they're able to say, okay, fine, you are on holiday for 1 month, okay, fine, this is what we'll pay you. or maybe we'll pay you 3/4 and so on. But not even 3/4, they must be paid in full. But I must make a mention to you here, Nelson, that a number of teachers in the private schools have not been paid this period that the holiday has been extended to do with the cholera outbreak. They have not been paid. And so the proprietors of private schools are actually a culprit of abrogation of labor laws to an extent that they've even, decided to do away with unionism. In private sector, they've done away with unionism. When you go in to bring in unionism, you'll be viewed as an enemy and so on. They are used to have the workers having their rights, trampled upon in the private sector.
Okay, so yes, yesterday I was having a conversation with a certain senior citizen regarding the cholera issue. We are not yet sure what the case will be this week, because schools are supposed to open next week. Yes, so we are supposed to get an update from government. So what they were saying is, they were suggesting that maybe we should have schools in other areas open and leave those in Lusaka because they're the ones affected. And coincidentally, I was also watching a certain program where this same question was asked to the person who was on panel, and their response was, it's not possible because our curriculum is not centralized. It's centralized.
Yeah. Well articulated, comrade. You are very, very correct. Indeed, to say the children in Sparta should continue learning and those in Osaka should wait until cholera is, is fought to the fullest would be very, very unfair. You realize that these children are subjected to the exams of the same Examinations Council of Zambia. And so this is a fight that we must fight as a collective. Remember, we are talking about one Zambia, one nation. We must fight this, because you can say, okay, fine, we are okay today in Sparta. Somebody with cholera will travel from Lusaka to Sparta. And then cholera will be, and that's how it has been spreading. If you follow the spread of cholera, you realize that Kobabe did not have cholera from in the initial stages. But right now, there are certain parts of Kobabe that actually epicenters too. Why? Because people have been moving. So this fight must be fought with collectivity. If it means those children who are in safer places waiting for those who are battling with cholera, do that, because at the end of the day, these learners must move together. But we are getting assurances from the Minister of General Education, suffice to mention, Camnet, that a number of schools are ready to reopen, not knowing the cases of cholera that are within town, and possibly the cholera center, the Olympic Youth Development Center, and the Independence Stadium there, where we are not very sure of the statistics. So maybe let's wait between today and tomorrow. As the Minister of Health is updating us, maybe we may see an improvement, and the Minister of General Education has assured us that I think they've done much inspections, and the number of schools are set and are ready to move on come next week.
Does that call for a decentralization kind of system when it comes to education? I'm asking this question because you mentioned something like opening schools will not be fair, but we had COVID-19 where we embraced digital learning.
Yeah.
And a pupil in Chikankata, a pupil in Kwamsoro, Eastern Province, didn't have a chance to do so. Yeah. How fair were we that time?
Yeah, indeed, unfortunately, with the digital system, comrades, is that it favors those that are within urban and possibly peri-urban areas. A child out there in Google, where I come from myself, in Sparta, may be disadvantaged. Even here in town, there are very few children that are privileged to have that. A number of them will find, yes, a parent may have a smartphone, but a parent is unable to buy airtime and in turn have bundles. And so these are the challenges that we have. So at the end of the day, we have remember, we have a society made of classes. Whether we pretend or not, this society is a society of classes, and because it's a society of classes, there's a disadvantage of the unprivileged because they are unable to access this kind of education.
Mr. Mwale, someone might argue to say, look, we had COVID-19 and we do have cholera, which has been a historical outbreak, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Why is it that we're not learning lessons from there and putting plans of implementing ways that are going to combat such emergencies that would rise at a particular time?
Yeah, that's why I think, Comrade Nelson, if you followed the Federation of Free Trade Union of Zambia so much in our discussions, you realize that we've been calling for a proactive trajectory and not a reactive one. In whatever we do, our government must ensure that there are proactive preparation before calamity befalls, preparation before they are unforeseen falls, so that at the end of the day we are not, caught off guard. We do preparations in advance. Maybe Nelson, to make a mention that the rate at which the dollar is exchanging with our currency is also putting us in a very, very awkward position, not knowing what should be done. I think we've been calling upon the government possibly to embrace a consultation. We go for a consultative endeavor where possibly the labor movement can be involved. Okay, are you aware that within our midst in the labor movement we have economists, we have necessary expertise to provide the proper advice to the government, so that at the end of the day things can move accordingly. Otherwise, the rate at which the dollar is exchanging with our local currency, the kwacha, leaves a lot to be desired, to an extent where whatever negotiations our union leaders in the affiliate unions can do with the employers may lead a lot to be desired. And I want to take this opportunity, Nelson, to call upon the Emoluments Commission, of course created by the provisions of Article 232 of the Amendment Constitution number 2 of 2016, to up their game and be proactive. We are not going to sit and allow the Emoluments Commission to take over in the bargaining process of the salaries and conditions of service of our workers, but can they provide parameters as provided for by the law and the Emoluments Act number 1 of 2020. But what we've been seeing is that a number of negotiations have been jeopardized by the presence of the Emoluments Commission, and we are calling upon the Emoluments Commission to remain within their mandate, to remain within their jurisdiction as provided for by the Emoluments Act number 1 of 2020. Accordingly,
we're coming live to you via our DSTV channel, that is channel 274, Go TV channel 25, Topsat channel 106, as well as Facebook and YouTube. You can give us your comment or simply call in with your contribution. We'll be glad to hear from you in terms of the labor issues in the country that you might be facing or that you might have experienced. It's time to share that. We'll also get to hear your perspective in terms of the discussion that we've had this far with the FFTUZ. Interestingly so, you mentioned of undertaking worker education. And one thing that came to my mind was, how frequent do you undertake worker education in these companies? Because we've had instances where workers have gone to stage a protest, and then later on they're being arrested to say that was an illegal protest.
And fired.
And fired.
Yeah. Indeed, that's why we have undertaken the program of worker education. As a mother body, we've set an example, and we expect the same to be replicated in the affiliate unions, where people are taught skills of negotiation. Okay, comrade, you realize that we have had employers that would come and simply say, "Us, we end here at 5%. I don't think we can go further than this. We end the negotiation." All those issues, we must avoid them, because when you have proper negotiation skills that are inculcated in us during this worker education, I think it will go a very, very long way. I'm alive to the fact that the current Industrial and Labor Relations Act, Chapter 269, does not provide much for worker education. But I think out of our own making, out of our own initiative, we know that unionism cannot exist without worker education. And as unions, we have a responsibility to provide work education to our workers. Even in the maternity and paternity leave, you realize, Nelson, that there are some employers that think maternity and paternity leave, I think provided for somewhere around the section 4041 of the Employment Code Act number 3 of 2019. You realize that there are some employers that take it as though giving you, mandates to go on maternity or paternity leave is actually privilege. They don't know that is provided for in the Employment Code Act number 3 of 2019. So that's why we are saying, as we are doing the reforms of the law, the labor laws must also be a priority. Where we are seeing those lacunas, we need to make amendments. Where it is possible, even to repeal, so that at the end of the day, we have laws that take very, very good care of our workers. Having said that, also allow me also to thank government through the Minister of Mines that very, very soon, somewhere around 28th February, both Mopane and Konkola stand to be corrected, will be handed over to the respective investors, and to the respective investors, we are calling upon them investors in the mines, that can they maintain the workforce. Okay, we are tired of cries coming from the miners on the copper belt, how investors have simply taken over and laid off a good number of our workers who are now on the street. So we are calling upon the would-be investors, whether it's Vedanta or whatever the name might be, that to come on board. They must ensure that they bring on board the workers that they found operating in the mines on the copper belt and these other parts that have got mineral resources.
Before I even do a follow-up on the Mopane calcium issue, you did mention quite a number of statutory laws that we have as a country. For instance, the Employment Code Act and all these others that are there. Evidently so, the argument has been that we do have good laws that are just there on paper, lacking implementation. How is the Federation of Free Trade Union of Zambia ensuring that these policies that are there on paper are actually implemented to the latter, to the benefit of both the employers and the workers? But simply so, for me, I would like to focus much on the workers, because most of the times they're the ones that are victimized.
Yeah, it gets back to us as labor leaders, especially us in the mother bodies. We have a responsibility, Comrade Nelson, to provide leadership by ensuring that our people in affiliate unions, our workers, right in companies and these public and private offices, are privy to what the law provides. Okay, one of the issues in the worker education that we've been carrying out as a federation is that the labor laws must be inculcated in our leaders, and later on, go up to the workers out there. A number of workers don't know anything about these labor laws.
And speaking about worker education, we do have a comment from our Facebook platform from Raphael Chivo, who's asking, when can workers start going on leave, especially annual leave? It simply means that there's also a gap in terms of information, and thanks that you are actually undertaking this worker education.
Okay. A person can go on a vacation leave of about 6 months. In a period where the employer will simply say, now you were on leave and you are out of that leave, at least you have worked for this longer period of almost a year plus, you are free to go on another vacation leave. Okay, but we have seen employers that have misguided our workers by saying you can only go on leave when we have enough human resource in this organization. That is abrogation of the law.
And the others have said
it's a right.
Why we in the pariv?
It's an accrued right. You know such nonsense. It's an accrued right. It's an accrued right. You have the right to go on leave. I would tell you, both in the private and public sector, there are workers who do tell you that I've never gone on leave ever since I began working, because my supervisor tells me that I'm a very, very essential worker and I cannot leave. That is not correct. That is not correct. No one is indispensable. When you are out on leave, your replacement will be found. Have you noticed what happens, Nelson, when the misfortune happens, you pass on and then you are buried? Very quickly, people come in wanting to take over. Why? Because that is a clear indication that you are not indispensable. You can be replaced anytime. So to our brother, you can go on leave anytime for as long as you are in a period equal to the required threshold. What is bad is you are on vacation leave. This is February. Again, when it comes to the end after 6 months, by November, again you apply for another one. Then you will be going against the provisions of the law. And hence you'll be quarreling with your employer or your supervisor. You are free to go on leave at the right time, depending on how the months have accrued that you've been working.
From some of the interactions I've had, even the last week protest that took place in one of the big companies within the country, one issue that has been is that yes, the Ministry of Labour is mandated to conduct these random inspections time and again, but to some extent, this is neither here nor there.
Yeah. Indeed, the Minister of Labour, through the Office of the Labour Commissioner, has a serious mandate bestowed on them to go around and carry out inspections to ensure compliance of a number of labour laws, you know. But regrettably, maybe they've had no enough manpower to do that. But I think the Minister of Labour is dotted countrywide, both in provinces and districts. And so we expect the best from them, of course, through the Office of the Labour Commissioner. But one thing I must mention, I'm calling upon the United Federation of Employers and the Zambia Federation of Employers that we must work together. Okay? Of course, I must make a mention to you that we've begun engaging this Federation of Employers so that at the end of the day, we move together. The employers also must be told to say there's nothing illegal about the formation of a union in their company, in their organization. It's provided for by Section 5 of the Industrial and Labor Relations Act, you know, as read together, of course, with the Article 21 of the Constitution that provides that provides for freedom of association. And so, because there are those legal provisions that guide the formation of a union, our employers must allow unionism in their workplaces. Nelson, there are many employers that have not accommodated unionism. Others is out of ignorance. They don't know that they're actually abrogating the law. People are free to associate in those unions as provided for by Article 21 of the Constitution. So they must accommodate you. And for those workers who are hearing me as I'm speaking, you are free to form a union. You are free to associate and represent your comrades in those workplaces to avoid the abuse and abrogation of the law by not, being ready to represent each other in those workplaces.
You can't bite the finger that feeds you.
Yeah.
And they opt to remain silent even when things are actually out of state.
Yeah, that is allowing, an open infringement of your rights. There are crude rights. There are crude rights where people are free to form unions and represent their friends. So now it is wrong for an employer. It is actually an abrogation of the law for the employer to say, okay, fine, I'm the one who is paying you, and so you are going to abide by whatever I say. No. Okay? People must be ready to form unions, and union leaders must be respected. There are employers that have begun firing union leaders when union leaders are simply speaking, for the voiceless, so to put it. Union leaders have been speaking for the voiceless, but they are the first ones to be victimized. I think as Federation of Free Trade Unions of Zambia, we are not going to sit here and allow workers to be, abused. And regrettably, also, I've seen a lot of casualization, including the filling stations. Okay? We have a union called Pogaus in the energy sector under the umbrella of the Federation of Free Trade Unions of Zambia. There are about the challenges in recruiting membership in filling stations, these Puma, BP, Total, and so on, and yet those workers, they undergo a lot of abuse. They undergo a lot of, situations where they can't speak out. I've been to filling stations where somebody says, actually others are even sexist, that say, no, in this filling station we cannot employ the female, because a female will one day go on maternity leave, and then when they go on maternity leave, and then will lose out, and so on and so forth. You are abrogating the law. Allow the young ladies to be employed in filling stations, because they can perform just as the young men can perform. So we are calling upon the owners of the filling stations, when we come to talk about unionism, give us time. Very, very soon we are engaging the Energy Regulation Board, so that we have a chance to go around these filling stations and have unionism, embraced in those filling stations.
Yeah. Talking about the fuel attendants, I think last month we were supposed, I don't know, we actually witnessed the implementation of the increased wages.
Minimum wage.
Yes, that is for fuel attendants, domestic workers, and others. There are others who do not know what to do when they do not get that increase. And also, riding on that, there was a concern that the economy is hard at the moment, and we are likely to lose more workers. What kind of attitude should these workers begin to have when they do not get the increased wages?
Yeah, when they don't have the increased wages, comrade, it's an aspect of bravery and being ready to accommodate unionism. A number of these workers have their rights infringed upon, because possibly the employers have not accommodated unionism to an extent where you have increments of 2 to 3%. Honestly speaking, where does 2 to 3% of 1.5 take you? Because 2 to 3% of 1.5 may be around, I don't know, about 1.6 or so. So we are saying, can the employers in the first place accommodate unionism? Okay? Very, very soon we'll be knocking on the door of the Labour Commissioner. I think asking that, together working with the Federation of Employers, we meet these, employers, we educate them, okay? We educate them on the rights of the workers. Our comrades in the transport sector is even worse. The coach drivers and the drivers of trucks, very, very soon there's a looming strike for the truck drivers, which may, affect the turning wheels of this good economy. Okay, why? Because unionism has not been accommodated, and so people have no one to speak for them. As a result, people now, the workers, are taking their, the law in their own hands by, quickly doing some work stoppage to show the employer that they are also human beings, and the feelings they must have their conditions of service improved. And so here we are representing a number of affiliate unions, and we are calling upon our affiliate unions to ensure that they should not allow the rights of the workers to be infringed upon, regardless of who they are. Remember, the domestic workers, that is the garden boys and those working as maids in homes, a number of them are not unionized, if not all. And so through the tripartite consultative labor council, okay, ourselves, the unions at federation level, the Federation of Employers, and the government, we meet to come up with a minimum wage. We are party to that, by the way, in coming up with a minimum wage. The reason is simple, because our comrades there are not unionized, and we have to move in. And we are called upon ourselves, who are employers of garden boys and maids, to ensure that we adhere to the provisions of the law. We adhere to the provisions of the law because, according to the Jesuit Center for Theological Reflection, the aspect of food basket as at now leaves a lot to be desired, because you are talking about a family of 5 consuming about an average of 9,000 plus, okay? Meaning that what even the minimum wage that has been we've come up with. Okay, we are not saying it is the ceiling point. No. Okay, if you have a maid, you can even go up to 3,000. We are not saying the 2-3 is the maximum. That's a ceiling point. No, but that is the minimum one can give the employers domestically.
Now, the argument has been the people who employ these maids and domestic workers haven't had gotten any increment in terms of their salary. And how do they now begin to increase the salaries of their workers?
Yeah, that's why we are saying it's got a ripple effect. These salary increments have a ripple effect because it is those working in the public sector. It is those middle income earners that are in turn the employers of the. So whatever issues we do in terms of negotiations, bargaining, if we don't handle them properly to our workers in the middle income, level, then it has a ripple effect because they will have no increment. Then again, they will not be able to pay domestic workers. That's why as we negotiate as unions, can we do the correct thing? That's why earlier on you heard me talking about the functions of the Emoluments Commission, that they up their game so that all those in parastatals, all those in government institutions whose negotiations have been hampered by the delayed functions of the Emoluments Commission must be quickly moved in the correct direction, so that at the end of the day people's salaries must be increased so that they take care of the domestic workers they have back home.
Now, as we wait for that, are we ready for domestic workers to lose their jobs? Because that may be the case.
Yeah, regrettably, that may be the case, and that's why where we are seated ourselves as union leaders, we are not resting in wanting to push the Emoluments Commission, because the Emoluments Commission has many institutions that it presides over in terms of giving parameters of negotiations. So any delayed giving of parameters by the Emoluments Commission will jeopardize all the negotiations and all our workers. And that's why, regrettably, recently some commentators have been calling for the disbandment of the Emoluments Commission. But we do realize that we are law-abiding citizens, and the Emoluments Commission is created by Article 232 of the Constitution. I stand to be corrected, and so we must respect the Emoluments Commission. But when they operate within the confines of their jurisdiction and do the correct thing, so that we don't have a delayed signing of the collective agreement by our union leaders and the employers.
Even as we get to wrap up this show, let me also get your perspective in terms of, yes, we know for a fact that government, come the 28th of February 2024, is likely to hand over Mpani Copper Mine as well as Konkola Copper Mine to the investors there. But for some time we've had issues where even when a new investor come in, working conditions don't really change. We've also seen issues where a backlog of these unpaid arrears have also been left unchecked. But what assurance is there, especially coming from the aspect of you being the mother body, in terms of advocating that the rights of these miners are actually respected?
Yeah, thank you so very much, Nelson. Indeed, we have about 7 to 8 unions representing the mine workers on the copper belt, and we want to call upon them right now to up their game and ensure that whichever investor takes up those mines, whether it is Vedanta, whether it is whatever name that may come, can they ensure that they come with improved conditions of service. Okay, they should come with improved conditions of service and ensure that as they hand over that backlog we are talking about of accrued and paid allowances, accrued and paid leave days and so on, allowances are taken care of before a new page is opened. Otherwise, as mother body, we may be compelled to go and confront whoever investor takes over if they can't listen to our affiliate unions. We have a responsibility. We can move in and engage whoever the investor comes to ensure that the correct thing is done for the sake of the rights of our workers as enshrined in various legal instruments to do with labor laws.
Even, well, a lot of questions do chip in, simply because this is an issue that is very interesting, if you ask me, because we've also seen allegations that there's no need to have unions in Zambia, simply because they're being penetrated by politics.
Yeah, we, as a motherboard, Nelson, I think I remember sitting on this same platform at one time where I called for depoliticization of the unions. Can unions be depoliticized? Of course, we have a responsibility, especially at the level of a motherboard, to provide checks and balances to the government that is in power. We have the responsibility to commend the government, like the way I was commending His Excellency the President this morning when I came, for employing all those voluntary health workers. But again, we have a responsibility to knock on the doors of government. We have a responsibility to knock on the doors of whichever employer and tell them, this is wrong, the correct direction is this. We don't take pride in rushing to the media and possibly, outlining the gray areas that we are seeing. We want to knock on the doors. Okay, so we indeed have a responsibility to represent the worker and not to be compromised. Of course, as unions, like I mentioned earlier on, sometimes we've been accused of having gone to bed with the government in power, and so we fail to provide the checks and balances. But we have a responsibility to knock on their doors and tell them when something is wrong. We tell them, I think the correct direction is this side for the sake of our workers. We have done very, very well and continue moving on the same trajectory. And I'm calling upon His Excellency the President, Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, to continue, if there are other volunteers that have not been affected, to continue give them a priority when recruitment of our workers, especially in the health sector, comes. I want also to make a mention that by the way, we have a lot of volunteers also working in the Ministry of General Education. So when recruitment comes, they must also be given priority number one.
Your conclusion in terms of maybe there's someone who's watching us this morning and they've been a victim of these issues that we've talked about, and they're still asking questions or have got two questions up on
in conclusion, Nelson, I call upon the employees in various firms where there are no unions that they are within the confines of the law to form a union. Okay, they have the right to form a union as provided for by Article 21 in the name of freedom of association. So they should not allow this employer to trample upon their rights. Let them form unions, and we'll be there to support them, and we'll be there to ensure that the rights of the workers in that particular firm are not infringed upon, and any victimization attributed to formation of a union by the employer must be reported to the motherboard, because we have a responsibility to ensure that the rights of the workers are not infringed upon and the right thing is done.
I would sincerely like to thank you for making time and having breakfast with us at Camnet TV, especially being a Monday, and all those viewers that have been there having breakfast with us. I think it's a time where we have to wrap it, and hopefully you've learned one or two things. And what has stood out for me is the aspect of ensuring that you also form unions. Did you know that it is your right to ensure that you form a union within your workplace and ensure that your rights are advocated for? It has been Nelson Zulu as well as Vincent Piri, and our guest this morning was Mr. Nelson Mwale from the Federation of Free Trade Union of Zambia. And this is what we call it a day. Have a blessed new week.
Introducing Kapi Lodges Kafewe, a beautiful place to spend your night. At Kapi Lodges, We have affordable and comfortable rooms to meet your expectations. We are located along Kafue Road, Shimabala area. For more details, contact us on +260 979 476307 or +260 976 057123 or +260 764 700 003. Email kapilodges@gmail.com. Kapi Lodges, my second comfort, home.